I see you, writers. I see what you did there. Guys, was I the only one who immediately thought of Naruto's meeting with Sasuke after a couple of years when, Boruto saw Mitsuki? It's obvious that the writers made this awesome nostalgic parallel because, in Naruto you had Naruto searching for Sasuke, and after some time he finds him and Sasuke stands above him, and, Naruto kind of looks at him. And here you also had Boruto searching for Mitsuki, and then all of a sudden Mitsuki is above Boruto, watching Boruto from a distance. So yeah, I actually tweeted this earlier today, and a couple of people actually got the wrong idea. They thought I was bashing Boruto for this, because I literally just put two screenshots of Sasuke and Mitsuki, and I said I see what they did there or something like that, and people took this as I don't know, as me bashing the series, which is absolutely incorrect. I was just pointing out one of the most obvious parallels ever, because the fact that Boruto was looking at Mitsuki like this, and the fact that Mitsuki was above Boruto, that wasn't a coincidence, and I just wanted to point it out. But yeah, anyway, this was a fairly enjoyable episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations. It wasn't perfect, but it was great. And anyway, without further ado, let's get into Boruto episode 79, I believe. Episode 79 review. Now, at the start of the episode, we have the fight between, again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name properly, Kokuyo, was it Kokuyo? Doesn't matter, but the guy with the long hair, right? He's fighting against Boruto and the others, and we can clearly see the difference in their power levels, right? But I caught one very interesting detail in this episode. I think that this dude mentioned that he can't use jutsu, and if you think about it, he was only using those weapons, and he was mainly using his speed, right? Obviously he was fighting alongside Akuta, but he never really did like a jutsu, or maybe I missed something, but I'm pretty sure that he said that he cannot use jutsu. And if you guys think about it, he's not a regular human. He was created, so maybe he was just created to be a taijutsu specialist. Not only taijutsu specialist, but like he specializes in using those weapons, right? And his like physical, like raw power is like extremely high, and maybe that was his purpose, right? I just thought that that was very interesting. Seikei, again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but Seikei, when he was talking to Mitsuki in this episode, when Mitsuki asked him, this means, like Mitsuki said, this means that you trust him, because at one point Seikei, he really, he had faith in his comrade, but he's like, it's not that I trust him, but like, he's super strong. He only lives to become stronger or whatever. And, that's something that Seikei tried to explain. And I mentioned this in my last episode review. These villains, quote-unquote villains, they're very interesting to me. They're very thought-provoking, because they're not regular human beings, but at the same time, they're kind of human, if you get what I mean. And they're still looking for, they're curious about these other human attributes that they do not possess. And, I just feel like from a philosophical point of view, like a lot can be done with these characters, and I really hope that the writers play around with them more, because the Mitsuki arc is already long so far, and it doesn't look like it's gonna end anytime soon. I assume maybe 5 more episodes, something like that, which, if you think about it, it doesn't seem like too much, but it actually is. You can do a lot in those 5 episodes. Maybe it's gonna be even longer, I don't know. Anyway, during this fight at the start of the episode, we see the chemistry between Boruto and Sarada. Chemistry in terms of fighting. I'm not talking about romance. We had one cute Boruto-Sarada moment in the last episode when Sarada commented on Boruto's drawing skills, which I didn't mention in my Boruto episode 78 review, because it wasn't so relevant, but here I am mentioning it here. But what I'm talking about is their chemistry in terms of like fighting, as I said. Because I think at one point in this episode, Sarada says, I fought alongside you so many times, and I kind of, know your moves or whatever. I noticed one thing in this episode, and I could be wrong, so do not take this as a fact. And If by any if I'm mistaken, correct me in the comment section. But was this the first time that Boruto used like a regular Rasengan in the anime? Obviously, he did use the Vanishing Rasengan multiple times already, but this was an actual Rasengan. Was this the first time that we saw him use it in the anime? Obviously, we saw it in the manga, but I'm just talking about the anime right now. I think it was. And if I'm wrong, it might be like a second time or something. But I think it was the first. Doesn't really matter. It was really cool when he destroyed that Akuta, and that, teamwork between Boruto and Sarada was great at that point. Now, since the guy with the long hair, I just don't want to pronounce his name, since he was too strong, Inoshikacho, basically they stayed to fight against him. Boruto and Sarada just, they moved on. And speaking of that, although it was explained that, Inojin and Choji, they saw these Hidden Leaf Ninjas, the guys who were pretty much frozen in the last episode, and it was explained that they were worried, so they came back. It all felt a bit too convenient. Nothing too, it's not like a major problem in regards to this episode, but I felt like he was, too convenient, as I said, too convenient. But anyway, Boruto and Sarada, they move on, right? After they go for Mitsuki, right? We see this scene between Seikei and Mitsuki. I already mentioned it. It's the scene where Seikei pretty much talks about his partner and how he really focuses on power. And, I already mentioned that earlier in this review. And also, we see Boruto and Sarada thinking about Mitsuki. Obviously, emphasis is put on Boruto's thoughts about Mitsuki, just like how during the versus Momoshiki arc, we were seeing Boruto struggling mentally so many times, which is a great thing. It, really develops your character. It, it creates the bond between the main character and the audience stronger, in my opinion. One might say that it's a bit too repetitive, but I disagree. It's just showing how important Mitsuki is to Boruto. And the worst thing is that Boruto didn't realize this earlier. I mean, he did consider Mitsuki as his friend, but he never really knew anything about him. He never really asked much, and now he has these regrets, and he just wants to see Mitsuki again. I saw some people on Twitter complaining that he's thinking about Mitsuki and repeating the same thing over and over again, but for me, it doesn't serve a problem. So yeah. And, again, just a good, dialogue moment or whatever. Sarada is pretty much looking at him, and she pretty much says that she knows what Boruto is thinking, and she says that she's also thinking about Mitsuki. And there's this funny scene where she says that when she sees him, she's going to tell him one or two things, probably in her own Sarada way. And I think we all know how that's going to look like, right? So yeah, now Boruto and Sarada, they finally see this guy, right? And Seikei, and they're gonna fight him, right? Now Seikei has the same ability that Deidara had. I mentioned this in my last episode review, I think, but Deidara's ability was one of my favorite abilities in all of Naruto. Is it the strongest? Obviously not even close, but I liked it because it was always super cool to me. But also because I always thought that Deidara was such a cool character. But yeah, I really, really enjoy that ability. How Seikei creates all these creatures and how they explode. I just think it's amazing. Excuse me. I think it was Sarada who figured out that he infuses chakra to make it explode. And I think that when she said that, I think it was Sarada. Seikei, he went nuts. He was like, "Oh, you're so smart!" He was so pleasantly surprised, and I'm like, okay, she did say the correct thing, but was that so hard to figure out? But yeah, that doesn't really matter. We see a fight between Boruto, Sarada, and this guy, and obviously this guy is stronger than them. And Boruto uses Garaga for the first time in combat, right? For the first time in combat. And we get this hilarious scene where Garaga doesn't want to listen to Boruto. And when he summoned Garaga, and at one point you see Sarada standing, and she's like, huh? But, in Japanese, it sounds funny, right? I thought that was hilarious. A great gag moment in the middle of a serious, moment of the episode, right? Because Boruto is just getting closer to Mitsuki or whatever. And yeah, I mean, both Boruto and Garaga have some ego issues, especially Garaga. So whenever they interact, it's super funny, and it's also enjoyable, and it feels like it's like natural. Nothing is forced when it comes to these two characters so far. Obviously, later on, Garaga did help Boruto, because he clearly developed some, emotional bond with Boruto, because at the end of the day they signed the contract, because when Garaga's previous owner fucked him over, he had nobody to trust, right, when it comes to humans. And after so much time, he sees this kid that really wants to get their friend back, this kid that trusts and trust, if you get what I mean, and stuff like that. And I'm just loving this bond so far between Garaga and Boruto, and I can't wait to see how the future, when it comes to these two characters, how the future will develop, I guess. So yeah. Anyway, Garaga was a huge help. I mean, Garaga is huge. I mean, if you guys remember when Garaga was fighting against Aoda, he made Aoda look like a little bitch, right? And Aoda is strong, so that really shows how strong how strong Garaga really is. So yeah, and at one point, I think in this fight, something happens to Seikei, and he completely stops for a second. He holds his head like this. It almost felt like he was gonna pop out some dojutsu, but no. Something happened to him, right? I mean, after all, he's not a regular human being. He was created. He was an experiment. And by the way, I have a theory, because like Akuta, they were also created. What if these guys are actually like advanced versions of Akuta? Like, what if Lord Ku tried to make all Akutas into ninjas, like these guys, but he just couldn't do it, so he just kept them as these zombies or whatever. And maybe they're like on a higher level. If you guys like, this gives me some Bleach vibes. Like, I'm not saying that. Okay, I don't want to spoil anything from Bleach. I just, it's not that anything same happens in Bleach, but there's like something similar with Hollows, like not necessarily similar, but anyway, if you saw Bleach, you know what I'm talking about. I just wanted to point that out. So yeah, okay, I kind of forgot what I was talking about. Yeah, I was talking about Seikei and how something happened to him. Anyway, Boruto goes in for the kill, I guess, and boom, Mitsuki's there and he saves Seikei, and it was a great moment, an emotional moment, seeing Boruto's genuine reaction when he saw Mitsuki, how he was nice to him, how he was polite, how he wanted him to come back to the village. A really, really great moment. And both Boruto and Sarada were shocked when they saw that Mitsuki actually decided to go with Seikei. He's like, this is my will or whatever. And it really is his will, because he really questions his entire existence. Like, after that incident with Log and Orochimaru, I mean, it wasn't an incident, but you know what I'm talking about. After that, Mitsuki was pretty much forced to open that scroll, and inside of that scroll was Boruto's picture. So he's thinking to himself, what if I was just forced to have emotions for Boruto? What if he's not my true son? And at the end of the day, it's going to turn out that Boruto is his son. I'm pretty sure of it, and I'm pretty sure that all of you guys know it, but at this time, he's questioning it. He started questioning it at the start of this arc when he was talking to Onoki, and now he just wants to see something in the Hidden Stone Village. We don't know exactly what these guys, experiments of Lord Ku, we don't know what they told Mitsuki, but basically Mitsuki just wants to check if this is his will or not. That's actually like a really, really deep topic, especially when you take into consideration that Mitsuki isn't a regular human being. He has these doubts that maybe these like feelings were put inside of him. I even think that something like this is mentioned in the episode preview for episode 80, but that's not really related. I'm, making an observation based on what we saw so far, and that's just a bonus, like the fact that we pretty much see it in the preview of episode 80. I'm pretty sure of it, 99% sure, but doesn't matter. And yeah, he says that it's his will, and Boruto still thinks that Mitsuki's kind of joking, right? And at one point, Mitsuki, he comes to Boruto and he pretty much knocks him out, but it's kind of obvious that he didn't want to kill him, and it's kind of obvious that he was he was hiding his true emotions, because you can see it in his eyes. Even when he was looking at Boruto from above, you could see some type of emotion in those eyes. And what was I saying? Yeah, he was hiding his emotions, just like how he saved those guards in front of the Hinali village, and he didn't actually kill them. He kind of saved Boruto here because he had to prove to the guy with long hair that he actually is on their side, and he did it by knocking out Boruto. And then, the guy with long hair, he was like, okay, now I trust you. Speaking of that, that's another negative of this episode, and you maybe forgot what the first one was. In my opinion, it was too convenient how in the span of one episode, Inojin and Chocho just came back. Of course, it was explained, but I just thought it was quote unquote lazy writing moment. I don't want to say lazy writing because it's just a moment, a small detail, but you get what I mean. But this is actually a bit, this problem is a bit bigger. When Boruto and Sarada saw that the guy with long hair came, what they should have done immediately, because it's natural for their characters, is they should have panicked immediately. They should have thought, what happened with Inojin, Shikadai, and Chocho? Are they alive? Are they dead? I get it, they're all focused on Mitsuki. Everything is so super confusing because Mitsuki's supposedly switching sides or whatever. But I'm not really sure if they even mentioned Inojin, Shikadai, and Chocho. Obviously, they did escape. They're not dead. We as the viewers know it. But how can Boruto and Sarada be sure of it? And these guys are their friends. So I just thought that it was kind of out of character for them not to even react to it significantly. I'm saying react to it significantly because maybe they mentioned it for a second. I don't even remember that. But even if they did, it still wasn't impactful enough for me to remember it. So I just take it as a negative, right? Now, this episode gets a 9 from me. Normally, it would get an 8.5 because this little detail with, Boruto and Sarada pretty much giving no fuck about their friends. I mean, it's not, it's just the way it was written. It's not that, Boruto and Sarada are not good people as characters, but I'm just saying the way it was written in this episode, it's normally, it would make me give this episode 8.5, but the only reason why I'm giving it 9 is because not only this episode, but the one before, they were clearly leading up to Boruto meeting with Mitsuki, which should be the main emphasis, the main point, of everything. That doesn't mean that everything apart from Boruto's and Mitsuki's meeting can be shit. No, I'm not saying that. That would just be stupid and illogical for me. But just because it was leading up to something bigger, I can somehow swallow it and not let it affect my rating too much. But still, it takes away 8.7 from this episode and 8.3 for the the convenience thing that I mentioned with Inojin and Chocho. So yeah, overall, still a fantastic episode. 9 from me. Really, they were only the weakest, the 2 weakest episodes of this arc. It was when I think 1 hour special was announced. When we got 2 episodes in one day. One of those episodes, I gave it 8 point something, which was still great. It was when Inoshika was fighting against Boruto and Sarada. I thought it was a little bit lazy and rushed. But still, that episode was great. But I remember the one after it, I gave it a really, really low rating. It was the one with when the Ryuchi Cave stuff started, because that episode had a lot of problems. But apart from that, a lot of 10s and 9s, I think. I don't remember the ratings that I gave to all the Mitsuki arc episodes so far. But yeah, this episode gets a 9, just like the last one. The one before got a 10. It was when Boruto got the ninja summoning. And overall, just to kind of give my, overall thoughts about this arc so far, because at this point, everything is going to change. Well, it's not that everything's going to change, but Boruto met Mitsuki, the real shit starts now, right? So to give my overall thoughts so far, I think this arc is great. My favorite arc of the Boruto anime so far is the versus Momoshiki arc. I don't think that I have to explain myself here. And my second favorite would be the Naruto Gaiden thing, when Naruto Gaiden was adapted into the anime. Sarada Uchiha arc, Shin arc, or whatever, those two would probably be my favorite arcs. I really liked the Genin graduation exam arc. And depending on the next few episodes, this arc might surpass all of these arcs, apart from the versus Momoshiki arc, because that's just not possible. That arc was too fucking godly. So yeah, this arc has the potential to become my second favorite arc of the series if it continues being like this, because so far it has been almost flawless, excellent, I'd say. With one exception was that episode a couple of episodes ago, the one that with the Ryuchi cave. But yeah, I'm loving this arc so far, and I can't wait to see how this arc will develop, in the future. Right. So anyway, 9 out of 10 from me. That was your boy Tsuno Hokage. Twitter and Discord links are in the description of this video. Also, link to my second channel is in the description of this video. If you're new to this channel and if you're into the Boruto series, consider subscribing. And I will see you in my next video, which, by the way, is going to be Boruto Chapter 28 review. That's going to be out tomorrow. I know I'm late, but what can you do? I'll see you tomorrow in my Boruto Chapter 28 review. Bye.